Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today is the second in the series where I choose an experiment with this vintage pattern book. So from research, it seems like it was kind of like a weekly subscription or something you get at the newsagents, and you collected all the magazines and they came with paper patterns and technique cards. And you mix and match the patterns to make your own capsule wardrobe. So today I'm picking this sporty style jacket, which should be pretty quick sew, and I've chosen to do a primary color block type situation, so with the red, the blue and the yellow jersey knit, and then I'm also going to do a black ribbing for the button placket and the neck and wrist holes. Alright, so first things first, obviously you got to chop out your pattern, so following your pattern pieces, and with this one I chose to do a medium, I'm pretty sure. The sizing is a bit weird because it's vintage. So step one is stitch the sleeve piece front and back seams together and sew, and I'm pinning because I haven't done this pattern before, so I actually don't think I've ever done a raglan sleeve before, so I just kind of pinned first just to see where everything needed to go. And it also said in that part to top stitch it down, but because I'm using a jersey, I decided not to do any of the top stitching that they wanted you to do if it was more of a heavier weight fabric. I'm also going to be overlocking pretty much all of the seams where I can, just to give it a nice finish, and I always preferred overlocking jersey just because. Alright, so number 2 says stitch fronts to back along the shoulder seams, matching snips and raglan seams. So now that the essential shape of the jacket is put together, I'm just marking the amount of fabric that I need for the wrists, and there's actually a piece for the neckband, but the wrists, it didn't really say anything very specific, so I kind of had to work it out on my own, which is vintage patterns for you. So I think what I did was I measured how wide the opening was of the sleeve now that it had been sewn together, then just took a little bit off because you need a little bit less to have it to make sure it stretches a little bit when you sew, and I just made it however thick I wanted it. You can see me checking on my arm to see if it's how I like it, and trial and error, always experimenting even with sewing. also cut out a piece of ribbing for the bottom of the jacket, and I essentially did the same thing that I did for the wrists. I measured along the bottom of the jacket and then took a little bit off so that I could stretch it a teeny bit, just so when it's sewn together it comes back in a little bit tight. And then I just chucked them on the overlocker and sewed them up. Once that was done, I did that thing where you quarter the piece of fabric so that you can gently stretch it to fit properly when you pin it. So that's what I'm doing here. So I did that for the wrists, and I also did that for the waist piece. And then you quarter it on the other piece of fabric using the seams as your guide, and pin where the other half would be, and then match the pins, and that sews it up, or that pins it up nice and evenly. Alrighty, next up is to attach the waistband. I still don't know what I'm calling it. Waistband to the bottom of the jacket, and I'm just going to pin that down one edge first and then gently pull it and pin it to match nice and evenly. And as you can see in the background, my little helper is there watching probably Teletubbies or something. Take your time with this too, just so that you can pin it in the right spot and you get it to stretch evenly across the piece of clothing. this is what it should look like pinned. So you can see there's just a gentle amount of gathering in the middle, and I'm going to chop off any excess because I don't think I really had a plan there. With sometimes I just go rogue, just do what I want. Alright, so overlock this down, and while you're overlocking, you gently pull. Part 6 is attach interfacing to wrong side of front bands. Stitch one long edge of each front band to front opening edges of jacket and hip band, with front band projecting 1.5 centimeters below the folded lower edge of hip band. So I'm going to do that. Yep. So I think it's just saying attach the interfaced part of your button placket, and then make sure it's got a little bit of an overhang. That's my translation of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and iron all this down just to make it a little bit easier on myself, because jersey does have a tendency to move around and be a bit of a pain to keep still. Okie dokie. Step 7 is to press the seam on the bands, which is what I've already done, and fold each band in half and stitch across the lower edge. Trim seam and turn through to the right side. So I'm just going to sew that lower edge off now. Cut any excess. Trim the little corner, same on the other side. You can see me just double checking what I'm supposed to be doing. And now I'm going to flip it right side out and poke the little corner out as best I can. I think I use scissors or something sharp just to gently do that. Yeah, I'm using scissors. Probably don't do that at home. Just be careful. Rightio. So now I'm up to the step, the neckband, and I'm just going ahead and marking any of the marks that I needed off the pattern piece so that I'm ready. Step 8 is cut neckband from the ribbed welt, or stretch ribbing, which is what I did. Mark your dots, fold neckband in half, wrong sides together, pin and tack neckband to right side of neck edge, matching the center backs and dots. So they look like they've hand tacked it on this steps, but I'm just going to do that on the machine. Okay, so step 9, fold front bands in half lengthwise to cover ends of neckband, stitch round neck edge, trim corners and front band seams, neaten raw edges together between front band seams. Okay, so somehow you got to sandwich that in, the neckband in under the button placket. So I'm going to have a crack at that. Step 10, press neckband away from jacket and seam onto jacket, turning ends of front bands through to the right side. Press front bands in half lengthways and slip stitch loose pressed edge to previous row of stitching inside front. So it's asking me to, I'm pretty sure it's asking me to flip the button placket through and then slip stitch it down by hand, but obviously I don't like hand stitching, so I'm just going to chuck it on the machine and I'm going to do a top stitch around that button placket rectangle. final step, I think, is 11. Top stitch through all the layers, 1 centimeter from the next seam line, starting and stopping stitching at front band seams. I don't think I did that. I left that off because I wasn't doing any of the top stitching. Attach the snaps as marked on front bands, and I opted to do buttons instead of snaps. So I'm just gonna lay the jumper flat, mark where I want my buttonholes, and then chuck it on the machine again. I'm chucking it on the machine a lot these days, and get my buttonholes done, and then sew on some buttons, and then that'll be it finished, I'm pretty sure. So I put some vintage buttons on to finish her off, and let's have a look what it looks like. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and check out my Instagram as well. I will see you next time. Bye!